Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my April 2020 reading wrap-up. If you're not already aware, I do weekly entertainment wrap-ups of everything I read, watch, and listen to, but today we're just talking about the books. This month was wild. For a large portion of it, I thought that I was going to read fewer than 10 books this month, which is not something that has ever happened since I started doing these monthly wrap-ups. This was due to posting 34 videos last month, hosting a panel with some queer SFF writers, as well as just having adventures in the house with my roommates. I'm going to start with the nerdy hardcore stats and charts and then get into what I read. In the month of April, I read 12 books for a total of 4,079 pages. That takes into account converting audiobook minutes to pages, so 1,658 of those pages were actually about 51 hours of audio. The age breakdown for these books was 9 adult books and 3 YA books. I read 10 novels, 1 novella, and 1 graphic novel. This month my reading was all over the place, with fantasy and romance taking up half the pie, and mixing in some non-fiction, contemporary, science fiction, science fantasy, and mystery thriller. If you adjust by page count, you can make a guess at what genre the graphic novel was. This month only half of my books came from the library, which is unheard of outside of Read Yo Shelves, the readathon I host every January, so I actually read some of the books I actually own. But I did manage to read some NetGalleys, some from the publisher, and others I already owned. I also made an hour-long reading vlog about the book I already owned, so I will link that down below. I read 7 ebooks, 4 audiobooks, and 1 hardcover book. Half of these books were in the 300 to 399 pages range, and all of them were published in the last decade. Most of these books were by female authors, with a genderqueer author, a few male authors, and a couple of co-authored books, and there was a variety of protagonist genders. In terms of setting, which is the easiest pie chart to read this month, I either kept to English-speaking countries or went to other worlds. In terms of diversity, I read a lot of queer books, as well as books with mental health and disability rep, books reflecting other races, intersectionality, and feminist themes. In terms of star ratings, this month I read 2 3.5 star books, 3 4-star books, 4 4.5 star books, and 3 5-star books. Let's start with the lowest rated read and work our way up to the highest, shall we? Interestingly enough, both of my 3.5 star reads were nonfiction this month. The first one is The Personality Brokers. This is a book about the 2 women who created the Myers-Briggs test. I read it specifically for a new nonfiction book club wherein on even months we're going to read soft sciences and on odd months we're going to read hard sciences. This was the first book and it was enjoyable. It was mostly a history of these 2 women who happen to be mother and daughter who created this personality test that we all kind of know about. It's those 16 different types. But it's interesting to read not only for all of that interpersonal history, but also to realize that a lot of this was just based on a few observations and not necessarily the scientific method that we all now know and love. So I enjoyed this, and I like that this book club made me pick up this book, but because it probably wouldn't be something I would have picked up otherwise. For the disability readathon, I also read The Pretty One by Kia Brown. This is a collection of personal essays of this disabled activist who loves cheesecake and her family and has had some hard times in her life. This book was intersectional as hell because not only does Kia have a disability, she also has mental health issues, she's also a person of color, and although it wasn't touched in the book, I think she is also queer. I'm pretty sure I read that in her Twitter bio. This is me checking I'm not just giving misinformation on the interwebs. Yes, bi icon. There you go. I wasn't wrong. What I loved about this collection is it felt genuine and very honest. She was very open about things she's experienced in her lifetime, and I very much enjoyed seeing her point of view on things. On to my 4-star reads, the first one being This Spell Can't Last. This is a novella that comes before These Witches Don't Burn, which is a book I read last month, really enjoyed, and the library doesn't have the second in the series, but this one just came out on the 28th on Kindle for like $1, so I read it. When you're reading These Witches Don't Burn, you know that something happened to these characters in New York, but you don't really have the full backstory on what that something was, and that's what this novella is. It takes place on a school trip to New York. It's a very short, like, couple of day novella, but I very much enjoyed getting all of this backstory for these characters that I ended up really loving in the first official book of the series. If you're not familiar with the series, it's about witches. There's a female-female romance that has actually been broken up, which is what happens in New York, and there's a lot of tension in the first book of the series because of that breakup. This month I also listened to The Starless Sea. This is Erin Morgenstern's second book, the first one being The Night Circus, and this one is similar in its use of magic, as well as I'm pretty sure there was a point, and I didn't write down exactly what it was, but there was a point where the night circus was referenced in the Starless Sea, which I thought was great because this book is all about books and stories and love of books and stories. Zachary Ezra Rollins goes into the library one day, checks out a book, and that book happens to contain a very small part of his personal story. From there, he goes on a bibliophilic quest to figure out how his life got into this book, where this book came from, what is going on, and the best quality of this book is it seems very dreamlike. So we'll go from one place to another and it seems very seamless, much like you're rolling from one dream into another. There were some reveals in this book that I very much enjoyed, and I would actually like to go back and read it physically because listening was great, but because my attention span has been weird and because this is such a dreamlike narrative, I swear I missed a bunch of things and I want to go back and find them. This month I also read A Prince on Paper, which is the third book in the Reluctant Royal series by Alyssa Cole. This covered 3 out of 4 challenges for me for the Stay Home Reading Rush, so yay for that. Because this is a companion romance series, obviously each of these books follows a different woman who are kind of intertwined in a friendship group. And the woman we're following in this one is going home for the first time because her friend from the first book is getting married. And although she likes being home, her father also tried to murder her friend, so she doesn't really want to be around him. She doesn't want to see him anymore. He had a very abusive relationship with her. So when there's a chance to flee the country and pretend to be engaged to this prince, she takes it. There's a lot more to it than that. For example, he has a very interesting relationship with the monarchy because his mother married the king, so he's not technically a prince, but his younger sibling is a prince. So he spent his whole life trying to protect his younger sibling because he was heavily bullied as a child and didn't want that to happen to his sibling. So there are a lot of interpersonal dynamics that I really enjoyed this book. There were a few things that made me kind of annoyed, such as when he was sort of speaking in his made-up language, it really was just mashing together French and German words, which the book actually addressed and was like, no, you never want to tell people from my country that that's what it sounds like, but that's exactly what it is in real life, so that was interesting. Moving on to my 4.5 star reads, I also read Always Human. I read this as the webcomic, but you can get it in a bind-up now. This is absolutely beautifully drawn. It uses a lot of negative space, and I really just enjoyed that style of it. Always Human is set on Earth, but in the future, at the point where people tend to use a lot of different modifications. It's quite easy to just change your eye color, hair color, bone structure, make it so you're not allergic to things. All of those types of things are very easy. You just get mods or modifications. And our protagonist meets this girl one day that she's been eyeing up on the subway platform for ages because she has never changed her look, and she finds that fascinating. And we find out that that character technically has a disability because her body won't take on mods. This was an interesting look at a female-female romance, what the future could be like, what it's like in a relationship when one person is disabled and one isn't, and they have to figure out what that means for each other. And then this was all about career advancement and working in virtual reality, and it was just beautiful. The ending was a little bit rushed for me, so I would have loved to have that kind of drawn out and see a little bit more of what happened, but overall I very much enjoyed this. Next we have Kill the Farm Boy, which is the first in the Tales of Pell series. This is a very punny series. In fact, the front cover actually says once upon a time, so that should give you some indication that this is just absolutely full of puns, from the place names to character names, because you're going to recognize some of these character names as spins on classic character names. There's locations such as where the elves live is called Morningwood. Obviously that has another connotation. And I'm not usually a person for puns, but when they are crafted so well that there's such a great payoff for a pun, I have to give it the applause it deserves. This starts off as a hero quest. We have Worsley, who is visited by a fairy one day that says, you are a chosen one, you have to go on this adventure. So he and this goat, who has just been granted the ability to talk, go on an adventure, and more people join the party from there. This is very much just like a very pun-filled D&D campaign with lots of different monster battles and all of that type of thing. There's also a female-female romance, and I have a hold on the second book in this series, No Country for Old Gnomes, which I will be listening to as soon as possible. Next we have Night Film. This is the only book I read physically this month. This is the book that I did an hour-long reading vlog on because I started this thing called Spectacular Standalones, where I'm going to read standalone books and take you through every part of that journey. I didn't realize when I started this book that this book has over 100 chapters, so I had to stop reading over 100 times to update you with what had been going on, which kind of explains why that reading vlog was an hour, but I wouldn't go back on it. No regrets. Very much enjoyed this. This is about a cult film director and what weird things he might possibly be doing, and it's from the point of view of a journalist who previously tried to figure out what is going on with this weird director. There's a lot of mystery around him, but was previously sued because he said something inappropriate by accident, and now that story of that director has come back into his life and he's just trying to make a comeback. This is very weird and creepy and atmospheric. It also has multimedia in it, so we'll see different articles from the internet or newspaper articles or that type of thing just kind of put into the book, and I very much enjoyed that aspect of it. There is also apparently an app where if you download that and you scan certain pages, you're going to find even more content. I didn't go that far because I got to the point where I was like, I've been reading this book for a whole week. I've had to vlog about it over 100 times. I think I'm okay right now, but that does seem like something I might want to check out in the future. If you're at all interested but don't want to read all 600 pages yourself, you know where to find that reading vlog. It's down below. This month I also read Love Her or Lose Her, which is the second in the Hot and Hammered series by Tessa Bailey. I remember Fixer Up being quite dirty, but it was not quite as dirty as this book. This book had so much to do with these two characters having sex, oh my god. So this book in the series follows Rosa and Dominic. They've been married for about 10 years, but they haven't been communicating for about the last 5 of them. He went off to Afghanistan, came back, and they kind of haven't communicated since. And they have very different love languages. He shows his love by providing for her, whereas she really needs words. And basically the only way they've really been connecting for a long time is Tuesdays. They always have really hot sex. This book starts out on a Tuesday. Rosa comes home from the job she hates and decides that she's actually going to leave Dominic. This puts them in last chance therapy to see if they're going to stay together. There is a lot of sex in this one, so if that is not your thing, you're going to want to skip this one, but it was incredibly hot, so if it is your thing, you're probably going to want to read this one. Finally, on to my 5-star reads, the first one being Sword in the Stars, which is the follow-up to Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy, who are a married couple, and that just brings me joy every time I think about it. Since this is the second in the duology, I can't really tell you too much plot-wise because it would completely ruin how the first book ends, but if you haven't heard me talk about this before and you haven't heard of this duology before, it is a queer, gender-bent, futuristic King Arthur retelling, and it's got both science and fantasy, which is why it's my science fantasy on my spreadsheet this month. Essentially, Ari, who's sort of our protagonist, but really this is a whole ensemble type of book, is the 42nd reincarnation of King Arthur. Merlin has been going through these ages and meeting up with all of these Arthurs and trying to get Arthur to break this cycle that keeps happening. And this is the first time that Arthur has been a woman. Possibly also the first time that Arthur has been on a spaceship. I really enjoyed that the second book played with the circular nature of the story. I really enjoyed aspects that I can't talk about because it ruins the end of the first book, but needless to say, obviously it's a 5-star read for me, so I very much enjoyed it. This month I was also very lucky in getting a proof copy of Boy Queen by George Lester. George is a fellow queer booktuber. I've watched his channel for quite a while. I really enjoy it, and he's coming out with his debut novel. I believe this comes out in August, and I absolutely loved this. This book is set in the UK and centers Robin, who is just about to finish high school and is trying to get into university for theater. He is an actor, he's a dancer, he's a singer, he just wants to perform, and all of his other friends seem to already have their plans in place. They know where they're going come the fall, and he's just trying to get into a performing arts studio, and I believe it says it right in the synopsis that maybe he doesn't. On his 18th birthday, his friends just want him to go out and have fun, so they end up going to a drag night, and he absolutely falls in love with drag. There was absolutely so much about this book that I connected with, which is why I knew I was going to love it. I knew going into this I was going to enjoy it as long as it was written well, and it was. Firstly, I used to be a theater student. I went to university for theater. I really loved the theater, so all of the little theater references throughout, I absolutely enjoyed that. There were also references to many mainstream drag things, such as Drag Race. That's the one that everybody will know about. But then there were also critiques to the drag community, so talking about how women can do drag, trans people can do drag, and how the drag community as a whole thinks that it's just gay men putting on clothes and makeup and hair, when that's not all it is. There's also a component to this where Robin has been seeing somebody who's in the closet, and it's fine if somebody is not ready to come out, but it's not fine for that person to treat you like crap. Just so many aspects of this spoke to me on a very personal level, and if it sounds like something you're going to want to read, please pre-order it because I would love everyone to read this book. And finally, speaking of another book you're probably going to want to pre-order because it was my favorite book of this month, we're talking about Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This one is also set in the UK and centers Luke, who is gay and works for a charity and has parents that are famous, so sometimes the paparazzi follows him around. We start out on a night where he is not having the best of times and he ends up tripping in the street, and the paparazzi puts it on the front page of the newspapers, and people that donate to his charity think that he is the wrong kind of gay and don't really want to donate anymore, so he has to up his respectability by pretending to date somebody respectable. Yeah, that's a lot, I know. This book and this main character have a lot of messy emotions when it comes to previous relationships, this current fake relationship, the fact that he doesn't really know his dad because his dad walked out on them. This book also has a lot to say about ethics and communication, and I just very much enjoyed this book. There was so much about it where people would be so homophobic in ways they didn't understand they were being homophobic, and it would be challenged, and we get to see this character learn to stand up for himself. This one comes out in July. Pre-order it. It's a very good time. If you want to hear me talk more about these books, or other books for that matter, the playlist for my weekly entertainment wrap-ups is always linked down below. If you've read any of these, or now want to read any of these, please let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't have anything to say but want me to know that you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!